Hi, this is Chris Nielsen again with Breaking Up with Fear. I'm here with Sherry Anshara and love our brief pre-interview and look forward to hearing Sherry's stories on how she has broken up with some of her fears. Sherry, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Sherry Anshara, and I am a medical intuitive in the medical world. And in the business world, they call me an intuitive business coach. But I just discovered that intuition is just our natural, innate ability to discern. Is that for me, or is that for me? Or maybe both aren't, and there's something else.
I love how you say that. And I think if more people followed their intuition and their actual intuition, and one of the things I've said with the coaching I've done in awakening coaching, is it really our intuition, or is that fear voice speaking as we think it's our intuition?
Exactly. So I like to teach people how not to thinky and have clear thought, because I said sometimes that voice up in your head isn't really yours, it's somebody else's. So I laughingly say, do you channel? And people say, no, I don't channel. Well, when was the last time you said something that said, you can't do this, you're channeling somebody else, don't listen?
I love that. I love that. So tell us maybe one of the stories about how you got to be a medical intuitive. And what took you there, and a business intuitive as well?
Exactly, because I really was an entrepreneur since I was 12, believe it or not. And so I was in businesses and I was in the corporate world. And I'll make this short and sweet. I even became a VP of marketing at a national company in the 80s without a college degree, but I didn't know you couldn't do that. And I flew my own airplane oh, you'll love this, Chris. I even got sued for alimony. Is that the coolest or what?
Well, I think it's cool in this way is that if you got sued for alimony, you had something to be sued for.
Yes, I know, but it's all good. But
Yeah.
then my life changed. In 1991, I was on a business trip and I had a bad accident. I was actually 15 feet underwater, upside down the Connecticut River in some drunk's car. Now, it wasn't the drunk and it wasn't a Kennedy, honestly, but I was helping someone and the car surged. And so I had a broken neck, a broken back, a smashed head, and a brain out of place, but we didn't even know my brain was out of place. But that turned out to be a plus. I'm not kidding you. And so I was in Connecticut and lived in Michigan at the time. And so they said to me, what they would say without judging them. And so if you don't believe that brought some fear up that you can't do this and your life is over and you can't do this. Well, through part of that programming, I lost everything. I lost everything, but I gained myself. And this is what I discovered in 91, that fear was lack of information, because I was getting all of these messages about this, your life is going to be this way or that way. And I thought, that's not my voice. That is not my voice. And so when I discovered that fear is lack of information, it took me to another place, Chris. So I started examining my body. So if I cut myself, it heals, whether you put an antibiotic on it. So there has to be something different in the body. And I discovered a thing called cellular memory. And I started writing about it. And of course, I was patted on the head and said, take a pill, you'll feel better. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
no, I'm already feeling better. Why would I take a pill?
Yes.
And so,
You're feeling too good, Sherry. You need a pill.
yes, I know. Isn't that the goofiest thing ever?
Yep.
And so when I started writing about it, they said I was nuts. So I've always been accused that I've like been ahead of my time. So a few years down the road, guess what happened? They discovered, even through athletes, they have cell memory in their muscles, how to throw a basket or how to hit a ball or how to catch it or whatever. And in soccer, they have cell memory in their legs for sure, in their feet and in their head.
Yes.
But I discovered that within my body, there was this intelligence and intellect called cellular memory that overrode the cellular memorization of fear. And so,
Whoa, pause there for a second. So say that again. Say that.
yes, I discovered that in cellular memory, for instance, your nose cells know to be a nose, and your toe cells know to be a toe, or you'd have a fingernail at the end of your nose. So there was this incredible intelligence, cell memory. But then I discovered there was a thing called cellular memorization. Now, the authority figures in whatever field really thought I was a nutcase. But the cellular memorization is that voice, that program that says, you can't do it. You can't do it. You're not smart enough. You're not good. Your body will always be that way, or life will always be that way, and be afraid of change. But change is growth. And my body was, quote, healing itself, but it was changing. It was changing into that cellular memory of how it knew to be healthy. And that was outside of me. They said, well, that's weird. But
Well,
no one wanted to ask me why. And then finally they did.
let me attempt to reinterpret this and see if I got it right.
Yeah.
So you're saying we are born with a cellular memory that doesn't have fear in it. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we're programmed then, our cells actually get programmed to be now fearful. And how did you were able to heal that and actually take some of the fear out of those cells and live a different way?
Exactly. And so I always had a lot of guts, really, or cojones, whatever, even though I'm a female. And so in 97, I moved to Arizona. I said, I'm going to go to an area that has a wealth consciousness. I'm not talking about snobby, whatever. And I'd only been here once. So I said, I'll move to Scottsdale, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And here I have $50. I mean, is that a lot of guts? However, I knew that it would have a different flavor because I teach about resonance, which is different than frequency and vibration because they're byproducts. So if you're in a resonance of fear, then you will draw fear-based experiences. It could be a victimizer. I do believe that Britney Spears said it in the best way. Oops, I did it again.
Nice, Brittany.
And I thought, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
I'm going to look like what, not as a lesson. I get sick of lessons because lesson to me is like less on, less on, less on. And sometimes it's more on, more on, more on. You know what I mean?
I think I really know what you mean. I think we could use less of this stuff we have up here, the thinking, the crazy thoughts, yes. And they turned us into morons. Some of our
yes. Yeah. But now when you start trusting that intelligence and intellect in your body. So actually, I'm not doing promo here, but clients that I've had got rid of stage 4 cancer because they changed their language. So I said, please don't be a survivor. A survivor is like, oh, I survived. So my clients are depression champions. They are cancer champions. And when you're a champion, then you don't repeat it. Because, gee, I've already done this. I championed. I got my, my Oscar, or I got my gold medal. So now I can go on and do something else. I can speak about it, or I can write about it, or I can talk about it, or I can invent something, what I call newness. And so when they're a champion, well, been there, done that. Now let's been there and do something else.
I love your languaging. I don't have experience with, the medical intuitive healing myself, or maybe I do, maybe, just my own positive thoughts have helped me with it. And I've never wanted to be a survivor of something. I've wanted to be a thriver, because survivor feels like, oh, you're just barely hanging on in those words.
Yes. And that's why I love the word champion.
Yeah. I love your word champion too. And what came to me when you said survivor was thriver. I would rather be a thriver instead of a survivor.
Yes. Yeah. And so part of the thing that I developed first for myself. So this was all about moi. Honestly, Chris, this wasn't about anybody else.
Let's go back just for a second to,
sure.
You found yourself 15 feet underwater. And were you pronounced dead, or was it a near-death experience, or how did you get out of that situation?
Well, I'll explain it, and then we'll let your audience figure it out. So the police and the medical staff, this was actually a teaching hospital, they asked me, how did you get out of the car? I'm not getting esoteric. And I said, I can tell you how you think I got out of the car, but I can tell you how I got out of the car. What do you suppose their answer was?
I don't know on that one. I would say, tell me how you got out of the car. That would have been my answer.
No. They said, just tell us how we think you got out of the car, because there were other properties that happened.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
And so, and this was water, this was where yachts were parked. So
Mhm.
sometimes in our life we have setups. So there was a yacht, all these yachts. But that night, the police told me that the people who owned the yacht was a very wealthy area of Connecticut. It was called Old Saybrook. And that night, the yacht was out. Otherwise, I'd have blown up the harbor.
Whoa. Yeah.
So sometimes there's an orchestration going on. You know, like when you're running a computer, this is a computer brain, I call it. But behind your computer, you have all these programs running, right? But you can't see them until maybe something happens. And that's what a programmer does. They see behind the scenes.
Hmm.
Or in The Wizard of Oz, don't trust that man behind the curtain.
Or don't look at the man behind the curtain. Don't pay attention.
Exactly. And that's why they said, just tell us how we think you got out. I said, okay, it'll make you feel much better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I love that. I love your storytelling. So what's a big fear you had that you broke up with or let go of?
Well, that I couldn't do it. So I developed my own mantra, no matter what, no matter what, whether I had $50 or $500 or $5,000, that it was no matter what. And what I broke up with the fear is that my life and what I do is an investment. We fear it as a cost. So that's also what I teach, that what you do is an investment in your life, not a cost. If it's a cost, then you are fearful that you're not worthy or not good enough.
Dive a little more into that and explain what you're saying there.
Okay, so a lot of people have been programmed for, here's an instance with, without judging it. Our family can't do this, or our family gets this, or we're from the wrong side of the tracks, or we're from the right side of the tracks, or this is what we do. You can't do anything else. Well, if you look at some of the leaders of the world, and these are kind of my leaders, if you look back at Florence Nightingale, she did not have a microscope. She did not have any biology training or chemistry, but she knew in her gut, if I clean up this operating theater, that more soldiers will survive. And of course, but look, she created a whole industry of nursing in every realm of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because she didn't say to herself, well, this is a stupid idea. So this is my concern. How many times when people are afraid of their own brilliance, that we miss something that could change the planet? It could be a product, it could be an idea, it could be a teaching, it could be something that is practical. And so fear is not practical. It's disabling.
I think so. What about this thought though too? There's some fears like a fear of high places, not as long as it doesn't overwhelm you, it just brings you aware. Now
Yes.
I think there's two fears. There's the making you aware, pay attention fear, which can be good at heightened awareness, and then
Mhm.
there's the debilitating fear that pulls the blood out of the thinking part of the brain into the primitive part of the brain, so you can barely see what's in front of you.
Yes. And you can barely, because those are the molecules of emotion that are thick, snotty, gelatinous, goopy, sticky that get in the cells. And so I've actually defined 3 fears on this planet,
All
3
right.
only,
Now
that
I'm
are
looking forward to this.
pardon?
I'm looking forward to your 3 fears. Yes.
Okay. It's self-judgment,
Okay.
self-lack, that you lack something, and self-takeaway. It's not that you take away from yourself your own natural innate abilities to be creative, and suppress it. Well, I can't really do this. I've actually asked people, have you ever seen something on TV that you said, you know what, I thought of that, but you didn't act upon it? So that is one of the things, is taking action. If we don't take some sort of action in the physical world and we judge ourselves with these 3 fears, and here I'll give you an idea. I know a lot of people are afraid of heights or flying, correct?
Yes.
Well, I am a pilot. I'm not current, but so this is how I explain it. Like, we know airplanes fly, but because we know it, can we fly an airplane?
No, not
So we
necessarily.
even understand airplanes fly. Can we fly an airplane?
Not necessarily. No.
No. But when you have knowledge of flying an airplane by the seat of your pants, visual flight rules, and you get that experience. Even if you're in a simulator, it's more fun when you're in an airplane. But now the fear goes away because you now have the power as you get, if you get your license, that you can either fly the airplane and utilize the knowledge, or just know and understand and comprehend that you can. So the fear goes away, and that it, you now can step in to power instead of the force of those belief systems that forced you not to believe in yourself.
Yeah, well, I think I agree with you that self-belief, bad self-belief, and bad self-belief is trained into us. One of the things I talk about is the "I'm not good enough" program that society is pushing out 24/7. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. It's the one commercial from, it was reminded me in a book about fear, was powerful. Choosy mothers choose Jif. Choosy mothers choose Jif. So what it's saying basically, if you don't choose Jif, you're not a choosy mother. And if you're not a choosy mother, you're not a good mother.
Exactly. Like what? What? And what I love is the variety of how we create life. So if we go back, I remember the very beginning, the end of the 90s, when someone wrote about the information highway. It was a great book. I can't think of his name right now. And people ridiculed him. What do you mean the information highway? Well, without the information highway, look, you're in Minnesota and I'm in Arizona. Look
Yes.
at the connection. And actually, because we met through Steve Olsher's group. When we are not fearful, because fear blinds us, it actually blinds us. And I call it being open to listen. When you listen through your cells and your intelligence, something happens. When you heary, you filter. The heary is going, I can't do that. I wonder what they mean. Oh, I'm not smart enough. I can't do this. And then you hear, I call it the pterodactyl voice. So I'm sitting next to this gal, and and we started talking, and then you move around, and we communicated. Well, during this time of whatever it was, insurrection, or having to hide, I co-authored a book with this gal.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, now it's in the editing stage, as well as working on my own book. And I've got 20 chapters and 20 to go in my new book on DNA, from the future for the future. So if we just look, this is happening. Now, how can I participate in the best way instead of, oh my God, I can't do this?
I like that you said participate in the best way. And I wanted to go back for a second when you talked about listening. One of my practices for me, I've been accused of being a really good listener at times and also a poor listener. But my practice is to listen with the willingness to be changed. And,
Yes.
and I think if you're not listening with the willingness to be changed, like you said, you're not really listening. You may be hearing, but you're not taking it in. It's almost blocked. And yeah, that's not what fits in this system. We're just already rejecting it.
Yes. And can I give you an experience of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is perfect. This is 3 years ago. I'm in California and I'm working with this guy. I'm his client, right? I am his client. And we were sitting outside in this beautiful setting in California. And he said something. I'm using this funny channeling. He said something my mother used to say.
Mm.
And I got this vision of me at an age in this little dress. And my mother, now he's marketing, correct? And so I had asked him a question, could we do this and this? And this is how he reacted, not responded. He didn't even know. He said, well, Sherry, if you do one thing, you can't do the other. And that's what my mother said to me. Well, if you do this, but she said, if you do this, you have to sacrifice the other thing.
Yeah.
And he said, my face changed, and I could see this horrific look on his face. Oh my God, he didn't know what he said. And then all of a sudden I burst out laughing. I couldn't stop laughing, and now he's confused, the poor guy. And I said, oh my God, you just channeled my mother. How did you know her? And he goes, what? So then I explained that, and he said, oh my God, I'm a marketing man. What the heck? He said, I just said what my mother used to say. I said, well, maybe up in heaven they're having a conversation and laughing.
I can relate to you. if you choose this, you can't choose that. And I think probably maybe some of the lack is in me in that way too, is going, yeah, you can only have one of them.
And this is like the variety, or the spice of life is variety. So like when people are stuck in something, how can they experience the different varieties?
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I think that's most people are stuck. You and I are fairly open, and I can tell there's probably places in me that are still closed. But what is it? How would you take someone that's closed off to something and real fear about something? How would you help them?
Well, I will use a client experience, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
So this lady came to me, and look at my body language, and she's like this, and and so I'm wondering, gee, I wonder why she's here. I have an idea. And so a friend of hers is one of my clients that had really, great experiences. And so I said, okay, so what is it that you would like to talk about? And she said, I've never changed. I have never changed. I go, okay, so now I go into the old Socratic method of sales, right? To make sure. So I said, okay, so I just want to get this clear. You've never changed, correct?
Did you do that to back?
Yes, I did. I said, so you've never changed. And so, because that's supposed to be that old sales pitch, you do this.
Yeah.
So I did it because she was of that age. Does that make sense? And so I said, you know what? I have to tell you, and she's in her 50s and an executive. So I said, I have to tell you, because I use shock treatment in a good way. I said, I'm much more impressed with your mother's vajayjay. And she looked at me and she said, what? I said, because if you came out with that hairstyle, that suit, and those high heels, your mother's vajayjay rocks. And I said, my dear, you are
let's just pause for a second, give you a hand for that example. I was going to go, you came here for the first time. That's what I was thinking in my head. But you do not go small there, Sherry. You go full on big.
And so then then this was the completion of it. I said, my dear, you are somewhere between diapers and depends. Underwear, do you think you haven't changed? Then it hit her, and she relaxed and she burst out laughing. And she said, well, is that stupid? I said, I know, but isn't it fabulously stupid? And then she said, well, the reason I'm here, my friend sent me to you, is because I always say I've never changed. And she goes, okay, let's get busy.
Great example. I love that. And that just opened her up.
Yes. Because if I attacked her and say, well, what do you mean you can't change? What are you talking about? That really, and sometimes humor is the best medicine. And
it is. So maybe that's why I like you too, is that I tend to shock people with humor a little bit too in my coaching and just play with them. And oftentimes we're laughing at the most serious things.
Yes.
And for me, I love this idea is, I can't remember who did it. It was in a movie and there was some horrific thing that happened. And the one character looks at the other character and goes, well, you're going to laugh about it in a year or so. Why not laugh about it now?
Yes, exactly. And it wasn't discounting her or making fun of her or anything. But sometimes when we are given and we listen and we're given the opportunity to see our own absurdity without judging it, then that can begin to make the shift in the resonance. And it relaxed her. And it was so powerful instead of forceful. The force would have been, what do you mean you don't change? What are you being, stupid? And so that would have just contracted her energy field more, which energy is just a byproduct of either BS, belief systems, or consciousness and expansion.
No, I love that. I mean, I love how you opened her up with that. And your setup was very much like a comedian in your setup. Because you're going, what do you mean? How did you go to this topic?
I know, isn't it funny?
Oh, I totally love it. And actually that one example makes my whole day right there. I'm going to have to share that with my girlfriend. And that story, I've never changed. Oh my gosh, I'm so impressed. So anything, as we wrap up, maybe in the next 5 or so minutes, anything else you'd like to share that you think would benefit people that watch this and about dealing with fear?
Okay, well, I have Sherryisms. I created Sherryisms.
Oh, I love Sherryism. I like Sherry already, so I love Sherryisms, I can tell.
It was a happenstance. It happened. I didn't start out to do it, but I would share some of these things in classes. And this is years ago. And one of my, people that was participating said, that is really funny. That's like a Sherryism. And that's how it got started. So I didn't really create it. I can't take it. So this is my favorite Sherryism. I say it every day before my feet hit the floor, that what I say makes my day, and what I say can make or break somebody else's day.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's one of my, and if I can put a plug in for my website, is
Oh,
that
please plug
okay?
for your website, or if people want to find Sherry and if they want to laugh and they want to open up, because Sherry can take you from here to laughing and being open to change. Yes.
Yeah, because it's your life.
Yeah.
I always tell people you don't have to get a life. You are the life. That's another Sherryism.
I like
You
that
are the life.
Sherryism too.
Yeah, you are the life. And so on my website, which is my name, SherryAnshara.com, I have a free ebook. It's called Getting Your Answers in 10 Minutes. And there's also another offer. I know you're one at a time, but they go together. So I actually have a complimentary session for 10 minutes because you can't imagine the things that we can cover in 10 minutes. So that's an opportunity that I provide for everybody. The ebook, Get Your Answers in 10 Minutes, and a complimentary 10-minute and finding out in your answers. So, but humor it's better than even the best medicine. It's just the best, because when your cells are laughing, you connected to that infinite intelligence and intellect inside you.
I love that, Sherry. I mean, because I love to laugh. Improv actually is part of my background for the last 10 years.
Really? You
Yeah.
know what? When I was in speech class in college years ago, I was always great at improv, but but memorizing a script, like, forget it. There's so many people all my life would say, "Why don't you do stand-up comedy?" I said, "I don't know what I would say."
Well,
I'd probably stand up there laughing.
I think even if you stood up there laughing purely, laughter is so contagious when done, done honestly. So I love that, Sherry. And I think you've helped give us some ideas for people to break up with some of their fears. And you've made my day just for playing with me here. You made me laugh. And I love your story. And I love your Sherryisms. So
Thank you. And thank you, Chris. I love you for this opportunity. I'm so grateful to be, and to share with you. And you know what? They say that there's always one person makes a difference. And I mean this truly. You are making a difference by what you're doing.
thank you for saying that, and because that's my mission, to make a difference and lighten the load. I've been in so much fear before about all kinds of crazy, stupid things, and like you said, here's the gift too for me, and this is why I love the Sherryism that you shared at the end, is I can so easily laugh at myself today, yet in the past I just beat myself up over and over again. Yet now I find it funny the things I do.
Me too. I'm going, and it's not that I'm laughing at something or someone, I'm actually laughing with them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and there is a
And
difference. Yeah.
and that's connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing I talk about too. When we're connected, we don't feel as afraid either. When we're connected to something bigger, or we're connected to a friend, or even when we're fully connected to ourselves,
Yes.
a lot of that fear just seems to go away.
And see, and then when you're connected to yourself and you are connected to someone else, it's a full relationship. It's full. And whatever happened before happened, because you can't change the past. It's 1 second ago. But the future is changeable, and it's 1 second from now.
Yeah, I love that you say that you have. I love that piece of Sherryism too. Is that
Yeah.
full relationship? Because it's when you have a full relationship with yourself and a full relationship with someone else, that's a beautiful place.
Yeah, a couple years ago, I put out a book called The Intelligence Code, and it didn't turn out how I thought it was going to be. I asked to interview these 14 of my clients, all ages and stages, CEOs to whatever, it didn't matter. And this was the interesting part. They wrote their own chapters. And there's two chapters in there by two of my clients. They're CEOs of their own company, very successful, now in a transition to move beyond what they were doing. and they wrote quantum sex, quantum relationships. And it was through the tools that, and this isn't a sex manual, it was about how to connect in intimacy. And you can get it on Amazon and Kindle, but all of the chapters in there are brilliant. But those two, they talk about how they became connected with each other, not to or for each other, but with each other. But those two chapters, when I read it, I said, geez, I'm just going to publish these two. Because they were so good. I'm going, wow. It's because how they took the information and utilized it. Because knowledge is fabulous. And I wrote a chapter in my new book. If you don't actualize the knowledge, then what's the point?
Is it really knowledge if you don't actualize it or use it? I mean, you're not owning it. And here's what I said for years for myself. And I read so many good books. And I go, oh my gosh, this book's going to change me. I'm going to be changed because of this book. And then I'd be back doing my own normal stuff that I'd done way before the book. And the book was like poof, a memory. It was gone. I had it for a second and I didn't reinforce it and I didn't make it my own.
Yes. And that's what these... Yeah, that's what these 14 people did. They took the tools and they made it their own. That was like, wow.
And
I didn't really do anything. I offered. They took it, utilized it, and took it in their life. Is that cool?
It is really cool because here's what you mean you hit on too for me is when I go into any training room, and I look forward to going to a training room again, is I tap into the wisdom of the room. Because the wisdom is infinite. I'm not bringing more wisdom than the room has. The wisdom of that room is incredible. The experience is what I hope to bring out of that wisdom. What you talked about too is I want to hit on just for a second is in relationships. The damage done to relationship is when we feel like we're not whole and complete ourselves and we're fearing and we're wanting someone else to quell our fears. And yet usually it was when we're in fear, we're triggering their fears. And now we got these two fears playing against each other. That brings in a lot of a negative drama in relationships.
Yes. And then the explosion happens.
Yeah.
And then we do, oops, I did it again.
Yes. Sherry, how do they reach you again? Tell anyone that's listening at this point, how do they reach Sherry? Because she is a blast.
I do. And I work with people all over the world, phone, Zoom, or in person. You can go to my website. It's Sherry, Sherry, Anshara, Anshara, SherryAnshara.com. Or you can call my office. It's 480-609-0874. And I'm in Arizona. It's hot, but I love it. So just call me at 480-609-0874 and you can sign up for a complimentary 10 minutes and you could be, and you know what? We'll have a lot of fun in that 10 minutes. I promise you.
I can tell you will. And with like that one question that you did for the closed off lady, I think you can open up someone pretty good. So the right people who are you connecting with Sherry, give her a call. Check her website out. And thank you so much.
Oh my God, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Thank you so much. And say hi to Minnesota and Ollie and Lena.
Hello, Minnesota and Ollie and Lena. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for getting me to laugh so much. And I love your light spirit. Please keep playing. I love it.
You too. And you're just going to continue to make more differences. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a fabulous day.
I'm glad I didn't stop the recording there. Yes, everyone out there, have a fabulous day from Chris and Sherry.
Yay!